Afternoon, members, and to those in the viewing public and in the gallery, welcome to your house. I now call this first day, second regular session to order. Please rise for a moment of silence, and when we do, I would like to ask everyone to remember the late Representative Ivan Blanco, as well as his wife Carmen and children in your prayers. We mourn with them the loss of a humble servant leader, our colleague and friend, the late Representative Ivan Blanco, who will be greatly missed but not forgotten. Thank you, members. I will now call on the clerk to call the roll as well as the roll of the late Representative Ivan Alfonso Blanco for the final time. Clerk, please.
Representative Vata,
Present.
Representative Vato,
Present.
Representative Selena Babalta,
Present.
Representative Sheila Babalta,
Present.
Representative Blanco, Representative Joel Komatsu,
Present.
Representative Vicente Komatsu,
Present.
Representative Damapan,
Sige.
Representative Flores,
Present.
Representative Guerrero,
Sige.
Representative Lizama,
Present.
Representative Manglonia,
Present.
Representative Probst,
Present.
Representative Christina Sablan,
Present.
Representative John Paul Sablan,
Sige.
Representative San Nicolas,
Present.
Representative Staffler,
Present.
Representative Villagomez, Mr. Speaker,
Present.
Representative Yang Thamay,
Ngayon.
Representative Yumo,
Present.
Representative Ivan Blanco, Representative Ivan Alfonso Blanco. Mr. Speaker, 19 members are present and 1 member is absent.
Thank you, clerk. And before I declare the quorum, I would like to ask for another moment of silence. Thank you, members. With 19 members present and 1 in spirit, we have a quorum. We now move down to item number 2, public comments. Under public comments, the floor is now open to receive comments. Please state your name and the entity you represent, private or government. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Thank you. Floor is open.
All set. Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you, Honorable Speaker Edmund Villagomez and members of the House of Representatives, for this opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Sonia Adelby Camacho, and I am the Director of Courts of the Commonwealth Judiciary. I am here on behalf of Chief Justice Alexandro C. Castro and Presiding Judge Roberto C. Naraha. First and foremost, the Judiciary shares its sentiment on the passing of the Honorable Ivan Alfonso Blanco, a member of this honorable body and a former member of the Lara Vision Commission. The judiciary extends its deep condolences on his passing, which is a great loss to our Commonwealth. His character exemplified servant leadership, compassion, and humility. He dedicated his life for the betterment of our people. The judiciary is profoundly grateful for his support of the judiciary's mission in protecting the people's rights and liberties. The judiciary joins the people of the Commonwealth and Micronesia in mourning a great statesman and extends heartfelt sympathies to his family. As to the order of business today, I appear here with the Judiciary's Budget and Finance Director, John T. Villagomez, and General Counsel Hyun Jae Lee for your deliberation of House Bill 22-74, providing appropriation fiscal year 2022. We thank you for your consideration of treatment courts, specifically recognizing the need for a mental health court docket. This is a huge step towards addressing the needs of families, our communities, and the justice system that in turn impacts each and every one of us. In addition, we respectfully request that Section 302 of the proposal be amended such that the judiciary will be listed with PSS and NMC on the list of exemptions. The judiciary has its own procurement regulations similar to these agencies, which was adopted in 2020, that has provisions for certain certification authorizations. In closing, we thank Committee Chairman Donald M. Anglonia, the members of the House Ways and Means Committee, and the House Fiscal Analyst for the time and effort with us on the proposal. Thank you all, and we remain available to provide any additional information should the need arise. Sizus Masi.
Thank you, Mrs. Camacho. The floor is still open for public comments. All right, since there is no more public comments, we'll move down to the third item of the agenda, adoption of journals, and I now recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under item 3, adoption of journals, we have 2 items. First day, third special session journal dated June 16, 2021, and first day, fourth special session journal dated July 6, 2021.
Thank you, clerk. I'd like to recognize the floor leader now for the motion to adopt journals. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'll offer a motion to adopt first day, third special session journal dated June 16, 2021, and first day, fourth special session journal, July 6, 2021. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made by the floor leader to adopt the 2 journal items on the agenda and has been seconded. Any discussion? Ready? Okay. All in favor to adopt the journals, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The journals are hereby adopted. Thank you, members. We now move down to item number 4, introduction of bills, and I now recognize Representative Leila Staffler.
Thank you, Speaker. I have the pleasure to introduce House Bill 22-73 to amend certain sections under Title II, Division 3, Chapter 4 of the Commonwealth Code to enable the mayors of each municipality to enforce provisions in the Litter Control Act of 1989 as amended for other purposes. I introduce this on behalf of myself and others and welcome anyone else who would like to join. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Staffler. House Bill 22-73 will be referred to the Committee on Natural Resources. I now recognize the Chairman of Ways and Means, Representative Donald Mangonia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is an honor to introduce House Bill number 2274 to make appropriations for the operations and activities of the government of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, its agencies, instrumentalities, and independent programs, and to provide budget authority for government corporations for fiscal year 2022 and for other purposes, introduced by myself and co-sponsored by members of the committee, and I welcome any other members to co-sponsor. And at this time, Mr. Speaker, I ask that the floor leader place this on the bill calendar today for action. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Manglonia. Duly noted. I'd like to now recognize the floor leader for the proper motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with that, I offer a motion to suspend Rule 9, Section 8, referrals of bills and resolution to place House Bill number 2274 on the bill calendar. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made by the floor leader and has been seconded to place House Bill 22-74 on calendar for action today. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Ready? Okay. If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 22-74 is now placed on calendar. Thank you. I now recognize Representative Patrick San Nicolas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm officially introducing House Bill number 22-75 to add a new expungement procedure as Section 4120 to Division 4 of Title 6 of the Commonwealth Code and for other purposes. Pre-filed by myself and sponsored by other colleagues. And its sponsorship is offered by our good colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative San Nicolas. House Bill 22-75 will be referred to the Committee on JGO. Thank you, members. We now move down to House local bills, and I would like to recognize Representative Denita Yangtamay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm introducing House Local Bill number 22-19 to amend 10 CMC Division 3, subsection 3702, authorization to the municipalities to require dog owners to be responsible for their pets' solid waste disposal. Introduced by myself, Richard Lizama, Ralph Yumel, and others.
Thank you, Representative Yangtamay. I now recognize Representative Patrick San Nicolas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm officially introducing House Local Bill number 22-20 to prohibit the hunting of summer deer on the island Tinian until the year 2026 and for other purposes. Pre-filed by myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative San Nicolas. With no further local bills, we now move down to House Legislative Initiative. And I now recognize Representative Ed Probst.
Thank you, Speaker. Formally introducing House Legislative Initiative number 22-1 to amend Article 3, Section 14 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth Northern Mariana Islands to authorize the election of a Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety and for other purposes. This is introduced by myself and others, and I welcome my colleagues to join. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Probst. The legislative initiative will be referred to the Committee of JGO. Thank you, members. We now move down to the introduction of resolutions. I now recognize Representative Denita Yangtamay.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm introducing House Resolution number 22-10, paying just tribute and commending the Honorable Felicidad Lewaman Taman Ogumaro upon serving more than 50 years of distinguished service to the people of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, pre-filed by myself, Rep. Ivan Blanco, and Rep. Leila Staffler. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Yangtamay. If there is no objection on your part, if we could introduce this as a whole, the committee. No objection? Okay, thank you. And if there's no objection, House Resolution 22-10 will be placed on today's calendar for action. Thank you, members. I now recognize Representative Vicente Camacho.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm honored to introduce House Resolution number 22-11 to honor the memory of the late veteran U.S. Army Sergeant First Class Antonio C. Tomocani, better known as Mitch, and to express our sincere gratitude for his 21 years of military active duty service and for his many contributions towards the security of our nation, particularly the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, through his dedication, commitment, and service, both in the United States and the Sinamay government, pre-filed by myself, and would like to have this introduced as a whole.
Any objections, members? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Camacho. House Resolution 22-11 is now introduced by the committee as a whole and will be placed on today's calendar for action. Next, we move down to House Joint Resolution. I now recognize Representative Vicente Camacho.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm introducing House Joint Resolution number 22-9 to recognize and acknowledge the employer support of the Guard and Reserve and the Guam Sinamay State Committee and their volunteer members for their exceptional services and commitment to our servicemen and women by recognizing the week of August 16th through August 20th, 2021 as Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve Week. Pre-filed by myself, I would like this as a whole again. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Camacho. Any objection? All right, thank you, members. House Joint Resolution 22-9 will be placed on the resolution calendar for action today. Thank you. I now recognize Representative John Paul Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Officially introducing House Joint Resolution number 22-10 to authorize the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas Islands through its governor to submit to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development the action plan for the Community Development Block Grant application number B-21-ST69-001, the Home Investment Partnership Grant application number M-21-ST69-0203, and the Emergency Solution Grant application number E-21-DC69-001 to receive the funds requested therein and to assume all responsibilities that may be imposed by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership Program, and the Emergency Solution Grants programs. Introduced by myself, and if there's no objection, I'd like to offer it also as a committee. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative John Paul Sablan. And with no objection, House Joint Resolution is now introduced as the committee of the whole and will be placed on today's calendar for action. Thank you, members. We now move down to House Commemorative Resolutions. We have none. And House Concurrent Resolutions, we have none. We now move down to item number 6, messages from the governor. I now recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under item 6, messages from the governor, we have Governor's Communication 22-46 all the way to 22-59.
Thank you, clerk. Any comments or discussions under this item, messages from the governor? Recognize the Vice Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So on behalf of our late colleague and brother, Representative Ivan Blanco, I'd just like to thank the administration for signing House Local Bill 22-3 into Saipan Local Law 22-1 and all the Saipan local laws. I'd like to thank the administration for their swift action, and the entities will be receiving these funds very shortly. Thank you again, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Any further discussion? Okay, with no further discussion, we'll move on to Senate communications, and I'll recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under item 7, Senate Communications, we have Senate Communications 22-24 through 22-33.
Thank you, clerk. I now like to recognize the floor leader to accept the Senate communications so that they become property of the House. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll offer a motion to accept Senate Communication 22-24 through 22-33 to become the property of the House. So move.
Second.
A motion has been made by the floor leader to accept Senate communications and has been seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Communication 22-26 will be referred to the Committee of JGO. Senate Communications 22-27 will be referred to the Committee on Education. Senate Communication 22-28 will be referred to the Committee on JGO. Senate Communication 22-29 will be referred to the Committee on Education. Senate Communication 22-30 will be referred to the Committee of JGO. Senate Communication 22-31 will be referred to both the Committee of Ways and Means and JGO. Senate Communication 22-32 will be placed on the resolution calendar for action today. Thank you, members. We now move down to House Communications. I recognize the clerk.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Under item 8, we have two items under House Communication, House Communication 2225 and 2226.
Thank you, clerk. Any comments or discussion under House Communication? None? Ready? Okay, we'll now move down to item number 9, communications from the judicial branch. I recognize the clerk.
Under item 9, communications from the judicial branch, we have one item, Judicial Branch Communication 22-3.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussion from the members? Ready? All right, thank you, members. Judicial Branch Communication 22-3 will be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means for reference. Thank you, members. Item number 10, communications from the departments and agencies. I recognize the clerk.
Under communications from departments and agency, Mr. Speaker, we have two items, Department Agency Communication 22-23 and 22-24.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussion under communications from departments and agencies? Ready? All right, thank you, members. Department and Agency Communication 22-33 will be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, and 22-24 will be referred to the Committee on Natural Resources. We now move down to item number 11, miscellaneous communications. I recognize the clerk.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Under item 11, we have miscellaneous communications. We have miscellaneous communication 2245 through 2251.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussion or comments under miscellaneous communications? All right, thank you, members. Miscellaneous communication 22-47 will be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means for reference. Thank you, members. We now move down to item number 12, reports of standing committees. I'd like to recognize the clerk.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Under item 12, reports of standing committees, we have two items, Mr. Speaker. Standing Committee Report 22-21, reporting on House Bill 2270, and Standing Communication 2222, reporting on House Bill 2256.
Thank you, clerk. I'd like to now recognize the floor leader for the proper motion to adopt the committee report. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first on our list, I offer a motion to adopt Standing Committee Report number 22-21, reporting on House Bill number 22-70, entitled to Reform the Investment Initiative Act of 2000 to promote economic development in the Commonwealth and increase competitiveness of the Commonwealth for private sector investment. Your House Committee on Commerce and Tourism recommends that the House pass House Bill 22-70 in its current form. So moved.
Motion has been made by the floor leader to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-21 and has been seconded. Discussions. I recognize Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is more of a suggestion for a technical correction, just in light of the passage or the enactment, rather, of Public Law 22-1, which, among other things, changed the name of CDA officially to the Commonwealth Economic Development Authority. I'd like to suggest, if the committee has no objection and if the authors have no objection, to just make this technical correction and update the name of the agency in both the committee report and the bill. Could that be considered technical?
Legal counsel, I recognize.
But could we do it in the committee report too, is what I'm asking.
Legal counsel.
There's always time to do it, and it would take some time to do it in the committee report. So if we want to just effectuate the change in the bill itself,
Sure, but what I'm suggesting is prior to transmittal to the Senate, that the correction be made.
we're prepared to do it in the bill itself, 22-70, where the change would be most necessary. We could add the change to the committee report, but that would take additional time.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we good, Representative Sablan?
Yes, are we going to make that correction then?
On the bill?
Well, I mean, it's both the report and the bill, right?
Counsel? Quick recess. Um, Before we went on recess, we were discussing Standing Committee Report 22-21, and there was a discussion by Representative Tina Sablan regarding technical amendments regarding the abbreviation CDA to change to CEDA on the committee reports to reflect on Public Law 22-1. So without any objection, I'd like to recognize the floor leader to clarify that motion. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'll withdraw the original motion that I had offered, and I now offer a motion to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-21 with technical correction on the committee report, reporting on House Bill 22-70 entitled to reform the Investment Incentive Act of 20,000 to promote economic development in the Commonwealth and increase competitiveness of the Commonwealth for private sector investments. Your House Committee on Commerce and Tourism recommends that the House pass House Bill or adopts House Bill 22-70 in its current form with the technical correction. Just to be clear. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. Clarified motion has been made by the floor leader and has been seconded. Any discussions? For the record, we'll just reflect that it's the Incentive Act of 2000 and not 20,000. Yeah. Thank you, floor leader. All right, without any discussion, all in favor to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-21, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Standing Committee Report 22-21 is hereby adopted. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now offer a motion to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-22, reporting on House Bill 22-56, entitled to assess a fee on plastic checkout bags distributed in the Commonwealth and for other purposes. Your House Committee on Commerce and Tourism recommends the House pass the bill in form House Bill 22-56, House Substitute 1. So move.
A motion has been made by the floor leader to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-22 and has been seconded. Any discussion? Ready? Okay. All in favor to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-22, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Standing Committee Report 22-22 is hereby adopted. Thank you, members. We now move down to item number 13. There is none. Reports of special and conference committees. Number 14, unfinished business. We have none. We now move to the resolution calendar, and I now recognize the floor leader for the proper motions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first on our list, I offer a motion to pass House Resolution number 22-10, a House resolution paying just tribute and commending Honorable Felicidad Taman Ogomoro upon serving more than 50 years of distinguished service to the people of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. So move.
A motion has been made to adopt House Resolution 22-10 and has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? Okay. All in favor to adopt House Resolution 22-10, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Resolution number 22-10 is hereby adopted. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I offer a motion to pass House Resolution number 22-11, a House resolution to honor the memory of late veteran U.S. Army Sergeant First Class Antonio C. Tomacani, better known as Mitch, and to express our sincere gratitude for his 21 years of military active duty service and for his family, for his many contributions towards the security of our nation, particularly the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, through his dedication, commitment, and service both in the United States and the Sinamay government. So move.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made to adopt House Resolution number 22-11 and has been seconded. Any discussion? Ready? Okay. All in favor to adopt House Resolution number 22-11, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Resolution number 22-11 is hereby adopted. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now over a motion to pass House Joint Resolution number 22-9, a House Joint Resolution to recognize and acknowledge the employer support of the Guard and Reserve and the Guam Sinamay State Committee and their volunteer members for their exceptional service and commitment to our servicemen and women by recognizing a week of August 16th through August 20th, 2021 as Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve Week. So move.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made to adopt House Joint Resolution 22-9 and has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Ada,
Yes.
Representative Bato,
Yes.
Representative Selena Babauta,
Hungan.
Representative Sheila Babauta,
Yes.
Representative Komatsu, Joel Komatsu,
Hungan.
Representative Vicente Komatsu,
Yes.
Representative Demapan,
Hungan.
Representative Flores,
Yes.
Representative Guerrero,
Hungan.
Representative Lizama,
Yes.
Representative Minglonia,
Yes.
Representative Probes,
Yes.
Representative Christina Sablan,
Yes.
Representative John Paul Sablan,
Hungan.
Representative Cindy Claus,
Yes.
Representative Staffler,
Yes.
Representative Yang Tamay,
Howard.
Representative Yumo,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 19 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 19 members voting yes, House Joint Resolution number 22-9 is hereby adopted. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now offer a motion to pass House Joint Resolution number 22-10, a House Joint Resolution to authorize the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands through its governor to submit to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development the action plan for the Community Development Block Grant Application Number B-21-ST69-001, the Home Investment Partnership Grant Application Number M-21-ST69-0203, and the Emergent Solution Grant Application Number E-21 DC69-001 to receive the funds requested therein and to assume all responsibilities that may be imposed by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership Grant, and the Emergency Solution Grant Program. So moved.
A motion has been made by the Floor Leader to adopt House Joint Resolution 22-10 and has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Ada,
Yes.
Representative Bato,
Yes.
Representative Selena Babauta,
Hungan.
Representative Sheila Babauta,
Yes.
Representative Joel Komatsu,
Hungan.
Representative Vicente Komatsu,
Yes.
Representative Demapan,
Hungan.
Representative Flores,
Yes.
Representative Guerrero,
Hungan.
Representative Lizama,
Yes.
Representative Minglonia,
Yes.
Representative Probes, Representative Christina Sablan,
Yes.
Representative John Paul Sablan,
Hungan.
Representative Cindy Claus,
Yes.
Representative Staffler,
Yes.
Representative Yang Tamay,
Howard.
Representative Yumo,
Yes.
Representative Probes. Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, 18 members voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. Before I declare, can we recognize Representative Probst?
Representative Probes,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 19 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 19 members present voting yes, House Joint Resolution 22-10 is hereby adopted. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the last on our resolution calendar, I offer a motion to pass House Concurrent Resolution Number 22-1 HD1 SD1, a House Concurrent Resolution to approve revenues and resources of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands as identified pursuant to Article 3, Section 9A of the Constitution as amended, and 1 CMC Division 7 for fiscal year 2022, beginning October 1, 2021, and ending on September 30, 2022. So moved.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made to adopt House Concurrent Resolution 22-1 HD1 SD1 and has been seconded. Discussion. Recognize Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And colleagues, as you are aware, when we adopted the concurrent resolution in its original form and we passed it as House Draft 1, we made an amendment in the understanding that the suspensions under the budget, specifically to Public Law 20-59 and 18-30, that the understanding that the second submission of July would relieve those monies so that the senatorial districts and the municipalities can get some of those funds. Unfortunately, the communications that was sent through the supplemental budget, the second submission by the administration on July 2nd, did not unsuspend Public Law 2059 and 18-30. Therefore, the Senate made its amendments to reflect the communication from the administration. Therefore, unfortunately, we won't be receiving those funds for fiscal year 2022 for the senatorial districts, and that is the reason why the Senate made the amendment. So I respectfully ask the members to support the concurrent resolution as amended by the Senate for those reasons that the administration did not submit the budget on July 2nd on suspending the suspensions of the original submission on April 1st. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Any further discussion? Ready? Okay, Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Vada?
Yes.
Representative Vato?
Yes.
Representative Selena Babalta?
Kungan.
Representative Sheila Babalta?
Yes.
Representative Joel Komatsu?
Kungan.
Representative Vicente Komatsu?
Yes.
Representative Damapan?
Kungan.
Representative Flores?
Yes.
Representative Guerrero?
Kungan.
Representative Lizama?
Yes.
Representative Manglonia?
Yes.
Representative Probst?
Yes.
Representative Christina Sablan?
Yes.
Representative John Paul Sablan?
Kungan.
Representative Sonny Claus?
Yes.
Representative Staffler?
Yes.
Representative Yang Tamay?
Awar.
Representative Yumo?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 19 members present voting yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 19 members voting in favor, House Concurrent Resolution 22-1 HD1 SD1 is hereby adopted. Thank you, members. We now move down to the bill calendar, and I recognize the floor leader for the proper motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before we go to the suspension of rules, I would like to go through the easier bills first. So I believe there's a lot of correction stuff that we done. So I will offer a motion to pass House Bill number 22-56, a bill for an act to assess fee on plastic bag checkout bags distributed in the Commonwealth and for other purposes. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to pass House Bill 22-56, House Substitute 1, and has been seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Ready? Okay, Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Vada?
Yes.
Representative Vato?
Yes.
Representative Selena Babalta?
Kungan.
Representative Sheila Babalta?
Yes.
Representative Joel Komatsu?
Kungan.
Representative Vicente Komatsu?
Yes.
Representative Damapan?
Kungan.
Representative Flores?
Yes.
Representative Guerrero?
Kungan.
Representative Lizama?
Yes.
Representative Manglonia?
Yes.
Representative Probst? Representative Christina Sablan?
Yes.
Representative John Paul Sablan?
Kungan.
Representative Sonny Claus?
Yes.
Representative Staffler?
Yes.
Representative Yang Tamay?
Awar.
Representative Yumo?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 19 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 19 members voting yes, House Bill number 22-56, House Substitute 1 hereby passes the House. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next is I offer a motion to pass House Bill 22-70, a bill for an act to reform the Investment Incentive Act of 2000 to promote economic development in the Commonwealth and increase competitiveness of the Commonwealth for private sector investment. So moved.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made by the Floor Leader to pass House Bill number 22-70. Has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Yes. Recognize Representative Tina Sablan, or Angel Demapan, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and this is continuing from our previous discussion. To state for the record, the request for a technical amendment to change all references of the Commonwealth Development Authority, or CDA, in the bill to reflect Commonwealth Economic Development Authority, or CEDA. So moved.
Mr. Speaker,
Recognized Vice Speaker.
I don't know if the Rep. Demapan made a motion, but I think we're considering it as a technical error on the legislation, so it doesn't change the version of the legislation, correct?
Okay, so
Thank
it's
you.
Yes, it's a technical. I think we agreed for technical, right?
Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any further discussion? Ready? Okay, Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Vada,
Yes.
Representative Batal,
Yes.
Representative Selena Babalta,
Hunggan.
Representative Sheila Babalta,
Yes.
Representative Joel Kamatsu,
Hunggan.
Representative Vicente Kamatsu,
Yes.
Representative Damapan,
Hunggan.
Representative Flores,
Yes.
Representative Guerrero,
Good.
Representative Zama,
Yes.
Representative Manglonia, Representative Probst, Representative Christina Sablan,
Yes.
Representative John Paul Sablan,
Hunggan.
Representative Nicolas,
Yes.
Representative Staffler,
Yes.
Representative Youngtamai,
Awat.
Representative Yumo,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 19 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 19 members voting yes, House Bill number 22-70 hereby passes the House. Now, before I recognize the Floor Leader, you guys want to stretch first? All right, short recess. Before we went on recess, the House passed House Bill 22-56, House Substitute 1, and House Bill 22-70. Now we have one more House bill on the calendar, and I'd like to recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I offer a motion to suspend Rules 7, Section 9, Committee Reports and Other Documents, and Rule 9, Section 910, first and second reading. So move.
Okay.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made by the floor leader to suspend Rule 7, Section 9 regarding committee reports and other documents, and Rule 9, Sections 9 and 10 has been seconded. Any discussion? Donald, did you raise your hand? Oh, okay. No discussion? Okay, ready? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now offer a motion to pass House Bill number 22-74, a bill for an act to make appropriations for the operation and activities of the government of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, its agencies, instrumentalities, and independent programs, and to provide budget authority for the government corporations for fiscal year 2022 and for other purposes. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to pass House Bill 22-74 and has been seconded. Any discussions? Recognize Representative Donald Magnolia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. I know there are a couple of amendments that will be introduced today, but before I do, I'll just briefly go over some of the actions that the committee has taken to provide you this budget bill. But before we do, colleagues, I just want to take this time to share with you that the role our dear colleague, Representative Blanco, has played in the work of the committee. As you know, Rep. Blanco chaired the Ways and Means in the last legislature. And because of his expertise and his experiences, as well as his relationship with these agencies, I knew I could trust and rely on him to step in whenever I'm unavailable, and to offer his guidance on how we should proceed with this during this budget process. And while his feet were smaller than mine, I had bigger shoes to fill. And so today we are here to deliberate on this budget bill that I pray for his continued guidance from up above, so that we can all come together and address any concerns that the members may have, so that we can pass the best version of this bill, so that we can send it up to the Senate for consideration. And so with that said, I just want to take this opportunity as well to thank all those who have partaken in this lengthy budget process. My appreciation goes out especially to the municipalities, agencies, and department heads who came out to testify, as well as all those who have provided the committee with a copy of their budget proposal. I would especially like to thank the members, the committee members, as well as the LB staff for their tireless efforts in ensuring a balanced budget, which we now have in front of us. So while we had hoped to see an increase in local resources, we were once again challenged to distribute a budget very much like last year. However, with the great work of Congressman Kilili and those who assisted in getting the ARPA passed, which provided around $500 million to the Commonwealth, we were able to make these informed decisions, taking into account the governor's spending plan, which was displayed in volume 4. Now, while we may see significant changes to the general fund, we did so knowing that the department and agency requests were addressed in the ARPA allocations. OMB has acknowledged the provision in the appropriations bill that clarifies the authority of the agency heads to have that reprogramming authority from any funds allocated to personnel down to non-personnel in order to meet the agency's operational needs. And so with that said, members, I'd like to point out several provisions that the committee has proposed. A couple of items on the provisions were carried on from last year, but some of the major additions that we had were or included the medical referral being transferred to CHCC along with any funding that was proposed based on the governor's executive order. Emergency power limitations. This will only apply within the executive branch and will require a 60-day legislative approval per the Constitution. Another provision we added was to require finance to submit financial records of quarterly allotments, monitoring. While we do get financial status reports, these quarterly reports that we added are particularly for PSS, Department of Labor in regards to CW funding, NMTI, CACC, NMC, and MVA. The committee had proposed to allocate $50,000 to the Office of Personnel Management for the desk audit of the Department of Public Safety and Department of Corrections. Another provision that we added was the OPA 1% fees, where we authorize the Secretary of Finance to establish a separate account to deposit all OPA fees, so that allotments can be made on a monthly basis. Another provision is to create a business unit into which 5% of money allocated to all sub-accounts 64,570 shall be used for purchase of indigenous art pursuant to 1 CMC 7203. This would require all agencies that have proposed funding for office furniture under 1 CMC 7203. It states that 5% of that shall be used for indigenous arts, and that if the agencies fail to do that, then that 5% will be deducted in the preceding fiscal year. We also allocated $50,000 to PSS to conduct a feasibility study for Hopwood to determine whether Hopwood shall be moved or stay where it's at. FEMA gave them a 5-year deadline. We are now in year 4, and so they will need to make a decision within the year. We've also allocated $50,000 to the Office of Planning and Development to do a feasibility study or a market study on the regulatory review of the casino gaming industry. And as I stated earlier, Secretary of Finance is the authorized expenditure authority under or with the U.S. Treasury. And with that in mind, there have been an infusion of funds within the personnel portion of the ARPA allocation. And we wanted to emphasize, as it was stated in Commonwealth law, that since the Secretary of Finance had extended the expenditure authority to department agency heads and the mayors of the municipality, we wanted to emphasize that funds can be moved from personnel to non-personnel in order to meet the operational needs of the office. And to tie it all together, one main provision that we had included is that, although we do not have the authority to appropriate the American Rescue Plan Act funds, we made our decisions on the general fund side based on the governor's spending plan. Again, you will find that in volume 4. And so with that in mind, the committee has agreed to consider the governor's proposal, and that any changes to that proposal shall require legislative approval. And so with that, in regards to changes in Schedule A, We have established the mental health court within the judicial branch, as well as provide them the adequate staff in order to run the court. We've removed all vacant FTEs that did not have any names listed and were not funded. And then we put back those NOPs that we felt is needed by the department or municipality and based on their request during the budget hearings. We established the FTEs and what will be proposed is to establish the FTEs for NMTI, which was in the House Joint Resolution that Representative Leila had introduced and we passed in the House, but it's still sitting in the Senate. And so these NOPs have not been established yet. And so that will be one of the amendments I will be making today. The rest, again, members, these are similar to last fiscal year's provisions, the ones that I did not mention. And with that, members, I now would like to offer a floor amendment. With you are a copy, it's a copy of the floor amendment that I will be proposing, and it's I'm officially introducing a House floor amendment to House Bill 2274. And the amendment is as follows on page 18, line 12, to amend section 301D, Northern Marianas Housing Corporation, to include newly submitted NOP, personnel, operations, and total to read as follows. D, Northern Marianas Housing Corporation, 91 NOPs, $4,980,029 under personnel, $3,049,353 operations for a total of $8,029,382. The second amendment is on page 18, line 17, to update section 301 grand total to include the Northern Marianas Housing Corporation. The changes have been made to give a grand total of 1,907 NOPs, 104,592,537 under personnel, 109,368,356 under operations for a grand total of 213,960,893. The third amendment is on Schedule A, page 6, to reflect all the previous changes. Under NMTI, business unit, new, insert the following NOP, and it shall read NOP 28. In addition, to amend the NOP under total other programs, grand total, and grand total with DPO accordingly. Total other programs, NOP is 1,222, general fund total, NOP 3,409, and general fund grand total with DPL NOP 3,490. And the Fourth Amendment, colleagues, Council, can you please bring it up? Based on our public hearing, during the public comments, Ms. Sonia came to propose that we include the judiciary in terms of not having them to go through the same processes. And from my recollection, in the last legislature, they have submitted a proposed regulation procedures, which the House accepted. And so in line with that, the Fourth Amendment, which will be on page 18, line 21 through page 19, line 3. The revised current text will be read as follows. Section 302, prior certification of funds. No contract shall be entered into with the Commonwealth or any government entity therein without first receiving from the Secretary of the Department of Finance certification that lawful and sufficient funds have been appropriated inserting, notwithstanding any Commonwealth laws, regulations, or provisions to the contrary, this section shall not apply to the insert judicial branch, the public school system, and the Northern Marianas College. Consistent with the intent of the foregoing amendment, I hereby also move to allow the legal counsel, together with the House clerk, to make further non-substantive technical amendments that are necessary or that are strictly necessary to effectuate the intent of this floor amendment prior to transmittal. Offered by myself, so moved.
Thank you. Motion. A floor amendment has been offered by Representative Donald Manglona and has been seconded. Any discussion on the floor amendment? Recognize Representative Tina Sablan.
So this is a three-part amendment, correct? So the first one pertaining to NMHC, the second pertaining to NMTI, and then this third pertaining to certification of funds.
Four, sorry. The first is NMHC. The second is the funding portion, which added the NMHC.
Okay, so we're voting on all four at the same time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Representative Tina Sablan. Any further discussion? Ready? All those in favor of the floor amendment offered by Representative Donald Manglona, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The floor amendment offered by Representative Donald Manglona is hereby adopted and it's now HD1. Any further discussions? Recognized by Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I believe every member has gotten a copy of the floor amendment that we'll be presenting. So page 30, line 1, please. So the amendment, as you see before you, it's going to read, of the funds appropriated to the Legislative Bureau Operations Business Unit number 1770, 100,000 shall be used to fund a forensic audit of all funds appropriated and if we may consider this a technical, a backslash or received by the CNMI from September 2018 to the end of the fiscal year 2022. That's the first amendment. Council and members, if there's no objection from the members, can we just consider the backslash and the or as a technical error? So it's just and or.
No objection.
No objections?
Council, is that all right?
Furthermore, on page 30, line 10, which is reflected on the original legislation, HD1 as G3, we will be removing that whole section which reads under Legislative Bureau Personnel, Business Unit number 1770. The following three new positions are hereby authorized: 1 paralegal, 1 legislative assistant, and 1 information technology assistant to provide professional services to both houses of the legislature. That entire provision will be deleted, but with the understanding that the 3 positions will remain with the Legislative Bureau. One of those positions will be for an IT person, and the other 2 will be determined by the Legislative Bureau Director and the Legislative Bureau staff, whether the need of 1 paralegal for each house or 1 additional legislative assistant for each house. With that being said, consistent with the intent of the foregoing amendments, I hereby also move to allow the legal counsel, together with the House clerk, to make further non-substantive technical amendments that are strictly necessary to effectuate the intent of this floor amendment prior to transmittal. So move.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. A floor amendment has been offered by the Vice Speaker and has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? All right. All those in favor of the floor amendment offered by Vice Speaker Attal, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Floor amendment offered by Vice Speaker BJ Attal is hereby adopted. House Bill number 22-74 is now in the form of House Draft 2. Any further discussions? Recognize Representative Angel Demapan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And while I commend Chairman Donald and the Committee on Ways and Means for the meticulous job of coming together and formulating this budget bill before us, I have one recommendation for consideration. It's not necessarily an amendment to the bill, but before you, each of you have a copy of this detailed Schedule A showing 3 columns. Um, no changes to the original Schedule A. However, just for reference purposes for our government stakeholders and our community, I think it's important that we show them in totality how much funds is going to each respective business unit. Um, we do realize that there were some reductions made to certain business units, but that's because there were funds supplemented from the ARPA funds that are set aside for next fiscal year. And so the detailed Schedule A before you is a recommendation to reflect the general fund column, which is available for appropriation in this budget bill, and reflect the governor's proposal for ARPA for FY 2022. And then finally, the last column reflects the combined total to each business unit. Just for the sake of every activity to understand and comprehend why changes were made in the general fund and how they get it back under the ARPA allocation. And so with that, Mr. Speaker, I ask for the indulgence and the consideration of Chairman Donald and members to replace Schedule A on the bill with the new Schedule A that's before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Demapan.
May I speak?
Recognize Vice Speaker.
In line with Rep. Demapan, if the members can go to the bill as a form of draft 2 under page 42, which is outside sources. And under 42D on page 46, it talks about the American Rescue Plan. And one of the last portion of the first sentence under line 12 is it states spending plan as set forth in volume 4 of the governor's annual budget submission of 2021 and amended in July, as amended in July 2021. The reason for, I believe, Rep. Demapan's change to this, because not every member that's going to receive, or any government entity that's going to be receiving their funds, or even they're going to look at the budget itself, the budget bill itself, doesn't reflect an appendix that what we're trying to say under Section D on page 46. So this replacement would actually show them the detail of what's the intent of the actions of the committee, and to assist the recipients of the Appropriations Act as to why they were increased or decreased, and a reflection of what they will be receiving under the ARPA. I believe that's correct now, Rep. Demapan. So with that, I think it's good that we would replace the appendix with the specific appendix, so it follows the legislation through, and when it does get to the administration, at least there's a reflection of what the intent of the distribution of the ARPA funds as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Representative Minglonia, did you have your hands raised? Recognize.
So yes, thank you, Vice Speaker. I just want to proceed with caution in terms of including anything other than what we're able to appropriate. It is good to have it for informational purposes, but nothing. What we have in front of us is just what was taken out of Volume 4. No changes to any ARPA allocations. But thank you again for bringing it up. As we know, agencies have been calling in regards to their allocations under the general fund. But if we add what we have in Schedule A to what was proposed in Volume 4, that should come up with the total that should be allocated to all entities. Also keep in mind that the current fiscal year agencies were given ARPA as well. And those funds can be used next fiscal year. So any funds that they weren't able to use this fiscal year will be rolled over and added to what what's proposed for fiscal year 2022. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Rep. Manglonia. Recognized Vice Speaker.
Thank you, and thank you for that, Rep. Manglonia. But if we can refer to the language under Section D of American Rescue Plan, it already states that absent legislative consent in the form of a House Joint Resolution, the governor shall make no changes to the allocations of outside source funds in the American Rescue Plan spending plan as set forth in Volume 4. Therefore, the replacement of this appendix will strengthen the language of what the committee came up with under the American Rescue Plan, so that every entity that will be receiving funds, whether from the general fund or from the American Rescue Plan, will see that those monies it should be at that amount. And this is just gonna follow the bill itself all the way through. We understand that we're only appropriating the general fund monies that were identified for the legislature for appropriation purposes, but we're also putting in language on page 46 that absent the consent of the legislature through a joint resolution. I think it's formal to say that we also show the ARP monies and the total that each entity will be receiving, inclusive of the ARP. We've already got that language. We might as well show the entities how much they will be receiving. And if there's any changes, and this bill does go all the way through without any amendments, and specifically to this section, it strengthens this body in making sure that the entities will be receiving the exact funds that we've appropriated and the outside sources that they've been identified to receive. I think it's important, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Recognized Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And while I understand the rationale for providing within the Budget Act information about how the ARPA funds are to be allocated to the different departments and agencies of the government, I do share the chairman's concerns about proceeding with caution for all the reasons that he mentioned. I do think also that there may be some confusion about the NOPs that we attempt to provide some guidance and limitations on, at least with respect to general fund appropriations. And I think that there could be some confusion created to have this schedule substituted wholesale with a new schedule that really hasn't been subject to review by the committee. This is the first time I'm seeing this. We haven't really had a chance to validate the figures, and I would not want to just substitute in this new schedule without the committee having had the opportunity to consult further with our fiscal analyst and verify these numbers. And also, we just adopted some changes. We should go in and make sure those are accurate too. I would not feel comfortable just substituting this without further review. Perhaps we could consider, once we have validated these figures, attaching this as a Schedule B for informational purposes. I do agree that there is value in the members of the public, as well as the agencies that are receiving local as well as ARPA funds, to see these figures side by side. But I'm not comfortable at this point with just wholesale substituting without further review. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tina Sablan. Any further discussion? Recognized Vice Speaker.
Sorry, members. I know we usually do only 2 rounds, but just on the budget, right? I understand Rep. Tina Sablan and good chairs thoughts of proceeding with caution, but I'm sure that the committee also looked at the ARPA funds and how much specific departments or line item agencies we're going to receive from the ARPA funds. Therefore, you were able to adjust the general appropriations because of the impact of the ARPA funds. Failure to see the ARPA funds, I don't think the big, I think it was roughly about $8 million that was distributed around. Failure for that ARPA funds to be visible for the committee to make decisions, you wouldn't have moved $8 million just like that. I think the subsidized funds from ARPA is a reflection of a lot of the actions that the committee made. It's really important, colleagues. We all know 22-33 sitting in the Senate, and the attempt of the language on page 46 is to strengthen the opportunity to make sure that we have some influence through 22-33 without acting on 22-33. So if we're going to do that, let's make it full blown and make sure that the entities understand what they should be receiving. If we don't do that, if we don't show them the appendix of what they should be receiving, how would they know whether they're getting the total amount that was really under volume 4? And there's nothing in the ARPA funds that broke down anything to specific government agencies or branches or entities to get the specific amount of funds. I understand we've seen on the ARPA funds that we're supposed to receive about $150,000 for the legislative branch per member. What if those funds do not come? At least with this appendix is a reflection of the action and the position of this body that we will continue to fight for the monies for the various entities. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be this body that's going to make the appropriations. CHCC, we just put medical referral under CHCC. We put $2 million under them. ARPA is reflecting additional $15 million. What if they don't get the money from ARPA, $15 million, and we're still going to have to subsidize medical referral? Failure for the administration to identify funds to be submitted here for appropriation purposes for that specific entity, as an example, is going to be a bigger challenge. But if we have the appendix follow this legislation, the very least we can do is fight on behalf of the various government agencies, departments, and branches that it's reflective on the submission of the governor that they will be receiving these funds outside of the general fund. It's not saying that we're appropriating ARPA money, but we're making sure that there's something that we can follow down the road, maybe 6 months from now, whether each entity is receiving the amount they should be receiving. It's failure to do that, we're going to be back to square one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Any further discussions? Recognize Representative Patrick San Nicolas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On page 33, section 706 for the second senator district, I really want to refer this to our legal counsel if on line number 11 to see if this one is constitutional or not, if the appropriation to the municipal council shall be divided and distributed equally to each member and municipal council in separate accounts. And each municipal council member shall be the expenditure authority of all funds distributed to that person.
Council?
I definitely would have to maybe consult with you and Representative Donald from the first senatorial district, because this is the language I believe that we've been using consistently throughout the years. I don't believe we've changed it to reflect something different. It's constitutional to answer your question, I believe. If there's a specific issue that you think is unconstitutional, I'll be happy to research that maybe during a recess, but I don't see any problem with the equal distribution.
But the right now it's the chairman of the municipal council in Tinian has the sole expenditure authority. So if this is not not unconstitutional, I would like to offer an amendment that the chairman of the municipal council shall be the sole expenditure authority instead of the three members.
I can draft up that floor amendment, but I need a little bit of time.
Would you call for a quick recess? Okay, quick recess.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Before we went on recess, Representative Patrick San Nicolas had the floor. I now recognize Representative Patrick San Nicolas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make no motion to offer an amendment for Section 706, line 11. And I would like to thank the legal counsel for his legal opinion. I yield, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative San Nicolas. Any further discussion? Recognize Chairman Donald Manglonian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I introduce the amendment, I just want to thank the good Rep. Demapon, Vice Speaker, Rep. Sablat, for suggesting that we include the revise or the combination of the general fund and ARPA allocation, which will now be reflected in a Schedule B. And in order to include that, I would like to now introduce a floor amendment to House Bill 2274 HD2. And if you can follow along, the amendment is to amend House Bill 2274 HD2 to reflect the following language. On page 25, line 4 to 16, revise the current text to read as follows. C, all appropriations and allocations of general fund and local funds made, general revenue and local funds made in this act were done based upon the legislative approved concurrent resolution HCR 22-1 HD1 SD1 and the Governor's American Rescue Plan Act ARPA spending plan insert as reflected in Schedule B and as set forth in Volume 4 of the Governor's annual budget submission of April 2021 as amended by the July 2021 submission. Therefore, absent legislative consent in the form of a House Joint Resolution, the Governor shall make no changes to the outside sourced funds submission or the outside sourced funds as listed in Chapter 8 that may directly or indirectly affect the appropriations made herein. Provided, however, the expenditure authorities of all branches, municipalities, departments, agencies, instrumentalities, and offices to which ARPA funds are allocated may reprogram funds allocated for personnel expenses to non-personnel expenses in accordance with the CNMI Planning and Budgeting Act as set forth in Title I, Section 7402. Insert, in the event of any discrepancies or conflicts between Schedule A and Schedule B, Schedule A shall govern with respect to general fund non-federal appropriations. And we are making a similar amendment on page 46, lines 9 to 19. Part D, American Rescue Plan Act, source U.S. Public Law 116-260. Absent legislative consent in the form of a House Joint Resolution, the Governor shall make no changes to the allocations of outside sourced funds in the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, spending plan, insert as reflected in Schedule B and as set forth in Volume 4 of the Governor's annual budget submission of April 2021 and amended in July 2021 that may directly or indirectly affect the appropriations made herein. Provided, however, the expenditure authorities of all branches, municipalities, departments, agencies, instrumentalities, and offices to which ARPA funds are allocated may reprogram ARPA funds allocated for personal expenses to non-personal expenses in accordance with the CNMI Planning and Budgeting Act as set forth in Title I, Section 7402. Insert, in the event of any discrepancies or conflicts with Schedule A and Schedule B, Schedule A shall govern with respect to general fund non-federal appropriations. And the third amendment, due to because we had included the medical referral under the CHCC and from my understanding, according to the chairwoman for health and welfare, there may be plans to rename the whole program. And so that language is included in this next amendment, which, if you look on page 37, line 12 to 18, revise the current text to read as follows. E, CNMI Medical Referral Program, the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation shall administer the CNMI Medical Referral insert or its successor, including both inter-island and off-island referrals, consistent with its duties and responsibilities under Title III, Sections 28, 21, et sec. The expenditure authority for all funds appropriated or allocated to inter-island and off-island medical referral services and administration, inclusive of Business Unit 1979, 1979A, and any new business units established for CHCC medical referral, shall be the CEO of the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporations or his and her designee. Consistent with the intent of the foregoing amendments, I hereby also move to allow the legal counsel, together with the House Clerk, to make further non-substantive technical amendments that are strictly necessary to effectuate the intent of this floor amendment prior to transmittal. So move.
Thank you, Representative Manglonia. A floor amendment has been offered by Representative Manglonia and has been seconded. Any discussion? Ready? Okay, all in favor of the floor amendment by Representative Manglonia, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Floor amendment has been adopted. House Bill number 22-74 is now House Draft 3. Any discussions? We ready? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Bada?
Yes.
Representative Pato?
Clerk, before I place my vote and speak, we're voting on the main motion and as draft 3,
Yes.
correct? Okay. My vote is yes.
Representative Selena Babalta?
Hunggan.
Representative Sheila Babalta?
Yes.
Representative Joel Komatsu?
Good.
Representative Vicente Komatsu? Representative Ramapan?
Good.
Representative Flores?
Yes.
Representative Guerrero?
Good.
Representative Lizama?
Yes.
Representative Manglonia?
Yes.
Representative Probst? Representative Christina Sablan?
Yes.
Representative John Paul Sablan?
Hunggan.
Representative Nicolas?
Yes.
Representative Staffler?
Yes.
Representative Yang Tamay?
However,
Representative Yumo? Representative Vicente Komatsu? Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, 18 members voted yes.
Thank you, clerk. With 18 members voting in favor, House Bill number 22-74, House Draft 3 hereby passes the House. Thank you, members. With no further bills, we move down to number 17.
Speaker.
Recognize your
move on,
privileged floor leader.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As per the agreement in the last session, under Rule 2, Section 4, C and D, I'm recalling House Bill 22-3. I'm placing it on the calendar for the next House session. Thank you.
Thank you, floor leader. Noted. Sorry about that. Any discussion on the floor leader's motion? Oh, no, that's a discussion. Recognize your point of clarification.
I believe the floor leader is just letting us know that he will exercise his authority for the next session, that House Bill 22-3 will be placed on the view calendar.
Quick recess. Before we went to recess, the floor leader had the floor to place House Bill 22-3 on a calendar for action in the next session. And it'll be placed on calendar for the next session. Thank you. All right. We'll now move down to miscellaneous members. Floor is open. Recognize Representative Adda.
Yes. Well, other than thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to wish colleague about happy birthday. But I would just like to ask because our colleague Blanco has been here next to me, and I know that one of his favorite things is taking a photo. And just before we leave his last session, I would just like to ask if everybody could just gather and we just take a photo with his photo just for his last session. That's it.
It's right. Sometimes miscellaneous and announcement is almost okay. All right, Representative Selena.
Just wanted to thank you guys for your birthday wishes. I want to thank the speaker and the officers of the House for calling this session under the guise of a session to pass resolutions and bills. It was actually a session to my birthday, so thank you everyone for coming to my birthday session. That's it, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Selena Babauta. Recognize Representative Demapan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first, I just want to thank the chair and committee members of Commerce and Tourism and Cannabis for supporting and marking up House Bill 22-70. And finally, to all of you colleagues for passing that bill today. And secondly, I speak on behalf of the Office of House Minority to thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of this leadership, and the hardworking staff of the Legislative Bureau for all the respect and courtesies accorded to our late Minority Leader, the Honorable Ivan James Alfonso Blanco, during his honorable service as a member of this body, as Vice Chairman of the House Committee on Ways and Means, and as Vice Chairman of the Saipan and Northern Islands Legislative Delegation. As a grateful Commonwealth, we look forward to honoring Leader Blanco's legacy of service together by serving our people with the same respect, honor, and dignity he embodied. Today's swift collaboration to pass the budget bill is a manifestation that Leader Blanco's spirit and guidance remains with us on this day. We will all miss Leader Blanco, but the fond memories we all have of him will ensure that he lives on in our hearts and the hearts of the people forever. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Demapan. Recognize Representative Donald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, just to follow through with Rep. Demapan, being the vice chairman and the former chairman for Ways and Means, he never fails to recognize at least the one entity that always comes out to show up to the session whenever the budget is being passed, and that's to the Judiciary for their presence here today, and to all the members for all the work that went into putting this product together. I want to thank you all for all the amendments and the proposals and the recommendations to make this the best version that we can, so that the Senate can and we hope that they will consider. And so with that, members, we can now breathe a little, just give time for the Senate to absorb the work that we've done and start working with them to push out a budget that we can pass prior to October 1st. And so again, thank you, members. I appreciate everyone's efforts. Thank you especially to the LB staff for working past the normal working hours to help the committee in putting this final product together. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ayu.
Thank you, Representative Manglonia. Recognize Representative Yangtamay.
I would like to thank everyone for supporting the passage of the resolution, House Resolution 22-10. It was, I think it was brought up by Ivan. He was the first one. And then the son passed it on to me. And then Leila was pushing me to get it through. And I thank everyone for your support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Representative Yangtamay. Any further under miscellaneous? Recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know tomorrow, I believe we have our joint session with the Senate. It's a really difficult session today because I know that it's our beloved brother, Ivan's last session with us. And I know that he's here today. I love you, my brother. It was an honor serving with you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Joel. Any recognize Representative Sheila Babalta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues, for your support on House Bill 22-56, House Substitute 1, to assess a fee on plastic bags and ultimately ban it. I'd also really like to recognize Chairwoman Denita Yangtamay and the Commerce and Tourism Committee for the time that they really allowed for us to improve the bill. And so, as stewards of our environment, I am grateful for your support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Sheila Babalta. Members, floor is still open. Recognize Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just like to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for taking the initiative and announcing out to the public that you won't be declaring the vacancy. I understand that this is our last session with Representative Blanco, but you're gonna wait until we finalize all the services for him before you announce the vacancy for Precinct 3 in the House of Representatives. I really appreciate that, Mr. Speaker. I know it's a difficult time for all of us here, especially for the guys here from Precinct 3. The last two legislatures, or last legislature and this legislature, has been very difficult. Floor Leader and I walked the streets with these two fine men that served this body and coincidentally sat in the same seat as we closed their time here in this chamber. But together, we will continue the work that they've done and complete their vision through the work that we do. And we'll keep their families in our minds and in our prayers and continue to be a part of their lives as they both, late Frank and late Ivan, has been a part of our lives. So with that, again, Mr. Speaker, thank you for making that announcement and taking that stance. It's a very difficult stance, as we all know that we will be underrepresented in Precinct 3, but until we complete everything, we can have closure for ourselves here in this body and we can move on for a better tomorrow. Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Representative Yangtamay.
Sorry, I forgot another one. Thanks for your support on the House Local Bill 22-19 about dog owners to pick up after their dogs. This is in anticipation of the tourists that will be attacking us soon. They like to take pictures on the walkway, and I don't think they'd like to step into those mountains over there. So thank you again, everyone. And also for the health of our people here. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Yangtamay. Any more members? Good. All right. Next announcements. Oh, sorry. Okay. Under announcement, recognize the birthday girl. Yay. Representative Selena Babalta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to make an announcement that the House JGO Committee will be conducting a public hearing on 3 bills, specifically 2 bills introduced by Representative Roy Adda, House Bill 22-59, 22-60, and 22-65. The first public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, August 10th at 6 p.m. over at San Vicente Elementary School. I would like to ask the representatives from Precinct 1 especially to come in and attend and provide us your comments for these bills. That's the only announcement I have. I will yield at this time.
Thank you, Representative Selena Babauta. The chair would just like to remind everyone about tomorrow's joint session at 10 o'clock here in this chamber. Members, for the handsome men out there, shirt and tie, please, for this joint session as we pay homage and tribute to our late colleague who also enjoys wearing his shirt and tie. I know I was talking to Rep. Roy Adda during the recess, and he says we should use the yellow tie if we have. But yeah, that's the announcement. Any more members? We now move down to adjournment, and I recognize the floor leader for the proper motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with that, that was really a smooth session today, and I appreciate it. And I'll offer a motion to adjourn, subject to the call of the chair. So move.
A motion has been made for adjournment by the floor leader and has been seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please stay. The ayes have it. All right, guys, this session is adjourned. We'll take a group photo.